I have been living in Vietnam for about 9 years. And prior to that, I was starting technology companies in the US. And my most recent company, Saigon AI, we've created in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City. So I've come to love many things about Vietnam. But normally when I'm on the stage, I'm talking about artificial intelligence. Or some people now know that I'm also a musician. Sometimes I'm on stage with a guitar. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about something that's a little more on the inside. So I certainly hope that you will enjoy to learn a little bit about what we're sharing today. So this is talking about letting go of unchangeable pain. These are the things that have happened to you that you cannot change. Now, if you look close to me, it's difficult from the audience, but if you look close, I have a scar on my head, the physical pain, from an accident with a motorbike 18 months ago. I almost died. So it's a good thing that I'm here today. But again, we're not talking about that. That is easy to get over. We're going to talk about some interesting things that cause obsessions, the things that stay with you. So we're going to come to this story, this idea that life is your journey. You bring with you what you think you need to carry, to survive, and you make your way. You are creating your story. There's a quote that I want to start with from a person named Fred Rogers. Some people may know him as Mr. Rogers, a very famous television show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And the quote says, "When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming." This is exactly what we're doing today. We're talking about what is it that was difficult. Whenever we can be honest, again, going back to the last talk, where we can be honest with ourselves, we can learn from this. And also sharing with other people allows us to learn from this. There are a lot of good things that come from that, but the purpose of today's talk is to figure out what do we do with it? How do we walk that out? And this is the difficult thing unless somebody has coached you. We want to go from this side to that side. Because if we're honest, there's a lot of days we feel like this. And there's no way to know how to move unless you've got tools, examples, stories, people, support. This is what you need. So, we already know about scars like motorbike accidents, but let's talk about the power of words. This is one of the most significant things that you're going to face in your life. Words can totally lift you up. An encouraging word from somebody that means something to you is going to help to boost you, and you're going to keep that. That's going to echo in your life and your career for a long time. The same thing when people have words that will push you down, those can stay with you for a long time. Again, what do we do with those? We're going to go through 3 steps. These are the 3 steps. This is the tools you need when you're dealing with words that you obsess about, that never go away. These are the tools. We're going to go through each of these. We forgive, we memorialize, and we share. Let's first talk about forgiveness. There's a very significant thing about liberation with forgiveness. What does that mean? I kind of want the person who said something not nice to me, I want them to apologize. I want that. You want that. But a lot of times that's never going to happen. So let's understand that if we can learn how to do this, this brings freedom to you because of the power of those words that are maybe pushing you down. So the first story I'll share about is a long time ago. I know I'm older than the other speakers here. A long time ago, whenever I did my bachelor's degree. The truth was, in high school, I wasn't a very good student. I was really good with computers, really good with computer science, and pretty terrible at everything else. So, whenever I went to that university, I did great at computer science, and I did terrible with other things. When I had my internship, the staff at that university, they told me every week, they said, you know, we don't usually let students with your bad grades into this program. I'm surprised you got into this program. Just constantly speaking these things to me. And so we're going to now go back to this concept of the person hiking. Imagine, if you would, you're wearing a backpack. Whenever people give you these words that are hard, that push you down, it's like you're putting a new rock inside your backpack. And the thing is, you're walking your life and you're carrying this backpack. If you carry hundreds of rocks from people's words, life gets very difficult and slow. Very difficult and slow. The story I just told you is people working at that university that put rocks into my backpack, making everything difficult. Fast forward to one of the first companies that I worked in. And one of these first companies, the partner I worked with, I created the company, I created the technology, and I brought a partner in, and the partner decided he was more important than me, and he started to manipulate things so that I eventually got pushed out. This added more rocks into my backpack. The point here is that I already had rocks from my university, and then work is adding more rocks. You can begin to understand that if you don't know how to deal with that, if you don't know how to remove them, your burden gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and life becomes more difficult. I remember looking in the mirror, this picture exactly, and seeing my flaws. Guess what? I'm carrying rocks from university and from partner, but now I'm also adding rocks because I'm criticizing myself. Those are the heaviest. So, what we have to do is learn how to get rid of those rocks, right? So, when we forgive, we reclaim peace. Let me tell you what I mean. There's two parts of this for forgiveness. One is those rocks that people put into you, they have a hold on you. Maybe they don't even know it. But the rocks they put in the bag, those words are holding you. They're weighing you down. They're pulling you. When you forgive, meaning I choose to forgive, I'm not going to wait for apology, I choose to let go. What you do is you make those words let go of it. That's from the people who offended you, you're releasing that. The second part is you think you need to hold on to that because it's your identity. Whenever you forgive, you're releasing that. You can imagine yourself just putting the backpack down and taking the rocks out. You already know the feeling that when you put it back on, it's going to be lighter. You already know that. Let's talk about a concept called memorial stones. What are memorial stones? Now, you know what a memorial is. This is some significant structure, rocks or statue, that says, oh, something important happened here. So we have these everywhere. We have them in Vietnam. We have them around the world. We have them in the ancient world. It's a way for people to remember the significance of something that happened that was very important. But there's an interesting thing. It's not just the achievement of that goal, but it's actually the journey that is more interesting. So what do we do with this when we memorialize? We memorialize by taking notes about what has happened in our lives. This thing was difficult. That thing was good. This was challenging for me. These words were good. This whole series of important things that lead up to a significant event where we can end the chapter of our story. By ending the chapter of our book, our story, mentally, by saying, yep, that's done, I can move past it now. This gives us the energy and the freedom that we can actually start thinking about a new journey. Start thinking about, what do I really want? Start to think about those things. So, how did this happen with me? I told you about my bachelor's degree, and I told you about my work partner and some of those challenges. Well, all those things were a heavy backpack for me. But when the time came for a master's degree program, and it felt bigger than me because I felt low, I decided to make the challenge, and I pushed through it anyway. I needed the support of my family and my friends and people around me. I needed that. And so whenever I accomplished that, not only did I finish that at a top-tier school, but I finished with a perfect score, grade point average, which is a really amazing thing. But it doesn't make sense. You don't get value from me standing up here and saying, look what I did. I got a master's degree with a perfect score. That doesn't relate to you. What does relate to you is knowing the pains that led up to it, to know that the significance, the memorialization of what happened there is because of how difficult it was to get there. Not just because, oh, this person got another degree. That's nice, but when you know the story, it has a lot more meaning, and has a lot more meaning to you that is easy to forget. So, how do we memorialize? It's really simple. You journal important things in your life. We've got a lot of technology that can do this. You can also use good old-fashioned paper and pencil. But keep track of the things that matter to you. Here, this thing that I experienced was difficult. Draw pictures, draw emotions, take notes about what matters. Because then when you accomplish the goal, and now I have reached the end of this chapter, I received that degree, I received that scholarship, I got that promotion, all of a sudden these things have a value. They have a story related to them. The story means a lot more than just the goal. So, now that we know how to memorialize, we remember and we reflect and learn, now we get to turn this into something that's a positive tool, something we use in our next chapter. Storytelling. So the beautiful thing about this is that most people only talk about the goal. Hey, look at that degree I got. Wow, I had to go far. But they forgot to mention all of the things that were difficult in between. They forgot to make life lessons out of the journey. So what you get to do is by memorializing your story, you get to take note of the things that were difficult for you, that become helpful for the next person. You get to talk not just about, look at what I did, look at what I finished, but look at how far I came, and look at the things that I overcame. That becomes the significance. You know, all of this sounds good, like therapeutic to do to help you work through your problems. But what you're doing is you're turning bad, difficult memories and challenges, you're turning them into a story, a narrative that has a happy ending of each chapter, and you're doing it in a way that makes it a tool for you to help the people around you. That's where you really have a chance to move on. When something that was difficult for me becomes a good conversation with a friend or a colleague, and they have a chance to move on from something that's difficult because of how you helped them and told them your story, now you really get to move on. Now the things that were difficult that you obsessed about begin to energize and move you forward. That is the right way to move forward. So if we reflect, we want freedom. We know we want freedom. We don't want baggage of hurts and words. But we have to walk through some steps to learn how to do that. So we learn to forgive. We make memorial stones, not just what we did, but what we had to overcome to get there. And then we share it with the people around us. It becomes something that we can give to the people around us. And you get energy from doing that. You also build deeper relationships from doing that. So my call for you is, now it's time for you to learn how to tell your story. And don't walk the journey alone. Walk it with the people near you who need your story to move past their hurts. Thank you very much.